Hey guys, welcome back to Pop Culture with Pat. It's time to get spooky. Alright, so we finally made it here. It is October, the kickoff of spooky season, officially. I started, way earlier in the year because I'm always thinking about Halloween. But a lot of people really consider, October like the official month for all the horror movies, the haunted houses and stuff like that. And I really wanted to do a lot of horror movie reviews for you guys. Stuff that's, scary, but then some stuff that, might just be kind of spooky and fun for the season as well. So we're going to be doing that for you guys. I got one for you today with Sleepy Hollow. And but real quick also too, I just want to show you my new little setup for this time of the year. So I got my Robert Englund standee. If you guys, are longtime subscribers of the channel, this is one of my first videos. I showed this getting signed. It's signed by Robert Englund and Lisa Wilcox right there. So that's one of my favorite pieces. I got this Beetlejuice tombstone right here. Hopefully you guys can see that in the video. But I actually just picked this up at Spirit yesterday and I was really excited because they're sold out everywhere. But yeah, and then I got my Stranger Things stuff in the background as usual. But without further ado, let's go ahead and talk some Sleepy Hollow. So Sleepy Hollow came out in the 90s. It is directed by Tim Burton. And honestly, this might be one of my favorite, if not, it's really close, I'd say, between this, Beetlejuice. It's definitely up there. One of my favorite Tim Burton movies of all time. It also helps that I've always been really fascinated with the Legend of Sleepy Hollow ever since I was a kid. I loved the Disney cartoon and stuff growing up. And I actually, just a few years ago, I got a chance to go to the actual place of Sleepy Hollow in New York. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, this movie has always held a special place in my heart. So it was definitely something that I wanted to talk about with you guys. And I felt looking back on it, but even when it came out, Tim Burton was the perfect director for this kind of film because he just brought that gothic, creepy flair to the movie. So the movie, it opens up and it's one of my favorite scenes in the film, right from the beginning. But in the beginning, we get this scene where Van Garrett, he is riding through the countryside. He's in a horse and buggy. And, you just really get a sense of that, creepy Halloween gothic atmosphere right from the get-go. Just the way the thing looks, it's very dark and everything. And then you actually get to see one of the infamous scarecrows from this movie in a cornfield as they're riding by, and you just kind of get this really, really creepy vibe, and I just love it. He's riding by, and eventually the Headless Horseman ends up coming by, cuts off his driver's head, and then he goes after Van Garrett, chases him into the field, where again he runs into this scarecrow, which has kind of become infamous at this point, especially with this movie and horror fans. And then that's kind of the beginning of the movie, and he cuts off his head and blood splatters on the screen, and it's just such a badass way to kick off this movie. And I've actually made one of my own scarecrows based off this scarecrow, and it's right here for you guys. So after this, not too long after, we end up getting introduced to Ichabod Crane, who is played by Johnny Depp, and probably again one of my favorite roles of his. Probably one of his more normal-ish roles, if you could say that. But he's not wearing a ton of makeup and stuff like that. And so we get introduced to him. If you guys are familiar, with the story, he ends up basically getting sent to Sleepy Hollow, this small little village, to investigate a series of murders. He's kind of the people in the town that he's in right now. They don't really like him too much because he's this big science guy, and they just want to kill people the way that they've been killing people, punishing people, I should say. And, he's kind of getting in that way because he's oh, we should have a system set up and everything. So they send him off to Sleepy Hollow to go investigate these murders. And they kind of know what they're doing when they send him over there. It's also at this point, we end up getting introduced to Katrina Van Tassel, and she is portrayed by Christina Ricci, which again, one of my favorite actresses. ever since I was a kid, always kind of had like a crush on her, and I've gotten to meet her a couple times, now, past few years with Comic-Cons and stuff like that. So that was cool, with her and, Casper and this, plenty of other movies. But yeah, she's always been a favorite of mine. So it was really, cool to, first time watching this, getting to see her in there. A little bit after Ichabod, he ends up meeting with like the like kind of like in the important people of the village, like Sleepy Hollow, like the accountant and the everyone that's kind of means or has like a big name like in like the village. He meets with them to kind of go over what's been happening with the murders, and they tell him the story or the legend of the Headless Horseman, Sleepy Hollow. And that's always cool. I've always, like I said, I've always loved this legend. It's one of my favorites. So they tell him the story, and of course, naturally, he doesn't believe it. He believes that he's going to find the person that's responsible for these killings, and he's going to prove it with science. He's not into all that supernatural stuff. So he's on a mission to prove these guys wrong. And some of the stuff that he does is hilarious. Like at one point when someone ends up, like this one character ends up getting killed, and he's like, reenacting like everything, and just some of the stuff that he's saying to like the village people, like I always like laugh out loud every time. And so at this point, the Headless Horseman, he ends up killing several more people. Probably one of my favorite deaths in the movie is Richard Griffiths' character. Forget right now, I can't think of his like name top of my head, but we see him and he's trying to like leave Sleepy Hollow. And Ichabod, he ends up catching up with him, stopping him, because he has like a couple questions, because he's starting to realize, there's something kind of weird like going on here. Nothing's really like adding up. So he's asking him a couple questions, and he's like, he's trying to tell Ichabod that it's all his fault, and he's trying to get out of here as soon as possible. Well, then we get these, the shot of like the woods, and you see another super, super cool scarecrow. And like, that's probably like one of my favorite things with this movie is I've always been like a fan of like scarecrows. I love designing them for my yard and stuff for Halloween. And just like between like the first one in this movie and then this one right here, just the imagery is amazing. And I actually want to try building this one at some point. So hopefully, maybe I can do that for this year. But yeah, we end up seeing this scarecrow, and then you see the Headless Horseman come out of the woods. He goes after Richard Griffiths' character, cuts his head off, and then he ends up picking up the head. It's like right in between like Ichabod's legs, picks his head up. And it's at that point, like it really confirms to Ichabod afterwards that the horseman is only going after certain people. So yeah, like Ichabod, like he starts to realize, or he basically confirms like with that something weird is like going on, and he has suspects of like, the horseman might actually like, being controlled, or like he's only going after certain people, and he's trying to figure out like why, that is. And, eventually end up finding out that it's Katrina's stepmother, girlfriend, whatever she is, but she's the one who's like behind everything. And, you go into like the backstory of why that is. And that's probably another one of my favorite aspects of this movie. Just that, you have the classic tale that everyone's familiar with, everyone loves, the Legend of Sleepy Hollow, myself. They even at one point, which, funny thing, guys, and some of you might be like, wow, you didn't notice that, but I've seen this movie, a bunch of times, and we actually just had a watch party for this in the backyard where we have like a projector screen and everything. So that was, that was really cool. But this was the first time noticing that at one point there is a scene where Ichabod, I believe he's with Brom, or it's like right before he meets up with Brom, and he's on like on the other side of the bridge, and you hear like the toads and stuff like saying like Ichabod, Ichabod. And I was like, holy crap, that is a tribute to the, the Disney version from, way back then. Like I said, I absolutely loved that, cartoon when I was a kid. So that was something that I just like discovered in this movie. Like I said, some of you might be like, wow, I can't believe you didn't know that. But that I thought was really cool. So just having that story that everyone's already, familiar with and loves, and then also, adding just a little extra flair as far as like, the Headless Horseman, he's being controlled like by someone, and it's totally a revenge plot. I think just like really puts this movie over the top for me. As far as the directing goes, like I said, Tim Burton was definitely the best choice to get for this film. Everything just looks like absolutely fantastic. The atmosphere, it totally just like, this is a movie that you can watch and it just totally gets you into that fall Halloween vibe, just with how everything looks. At times it almost feels like a black and white kind of like vintage movie, the way that, the tones and the color palette. And that's super cool because I grew up on those movies. So at times it feels like that because you really don't get like a lot of color, minus like some of the blood and stuff like that. So that was really cool. And then just the use of the scarecrows, the way the woods look, the witchcraft and stuff like that. Everything is just simply amazing. Definitely one of my favorite films from Tim Burton of all time, for sure. You also really get really good performances by Johnny Depp. Like I said, it's probably one of his more like normal roles, but he still has those like little like quirks and stuff where like throughout this film he passes out like several times, and that's kind of like funny. And then you also have a really good performance by Christina Ricci as Katrina Van Tassel. So great performances all around. Oh, and I definitely can't forget. Go without mentioning Christopher Walken as the Headless Horseman. He is absolute gold in this movie. So overall, guys, as you can tell by now, I absolutely love this film. It's definitely like my favorite take on the Legend of like Sleepy Hollow, like up to this point. I honestly feel like it's going to be hard to like ever top it. I'm sure they're going to do another version at like some point, but I just think with the casting, Tim Burton being the director and just all his movies kind of having that like feel to it, I think he was just perfect for this movie. And like I said, it just really gets you into that fall Halloween vibe. So overall, I'm going to give this movie a 9 out of 10. I absolutely loved it. If you've never seen Sleepy Hollow, definitely check it out. It's not something, at least to me, like I don't think it's like super scary. Maybe like a little like creepy, like at parts, just with like the imagery and different things like that. There's like a few like jump scares, but I don't think it's something that's like, like terrifying. So you can, watch this, have fun, just really get into that Halloween spirit. And if you haven't checked it out, I highly recommend you do. So if you have, let me know what you guys think of the movie down below in the comments. Where does it rank for you guys and Tim Burton's filmography, up to this point? Let me know as well. So, and as always, guys, if you are new to the channel, please make sure to hit that subscribe button as well as that bell button next to it, just so that way you do get notifications for all my new videos. Like I said, I have a bunch of more reviews, as far as like Halloween and horror and stuff like that coming the rest of this month. So make sure to check out for that and make sure to check back for more Pop Culture with Pat.